December 1944. The Ardennes Forest. The Battle of the Bulge is raging. American forces are locked in a desperate struggle against the last major German offensive on the Western Front. At the heart of this chaos is the town of Bastogne, a critical crossroads in Belgium, completely surrounded. The 101st Airborne Division, along with elements of the 10th Armored Division, are trapped, outnumbered, and running low on everything: ammunition, food, medical supplies. The weather is brutal, grounding Allied air support. The situation is dire. From his headquarters, the Supreme Allied Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, faces an immense crisis. He needs a miracle. He needs someone to break through the German lines and relieve the besieged defenders of Bastogne. On December 19th, Ike gathers his top commanders, including the fiery and controversial General George S. Patton. The mood in the room is grim. Eisenhower lays out the grave situation. He asks his generals how long it would take to launch a counterattack. Most commanders say they need days, maybe a week, to disengage from their current positions, turn their armies, and move north. The logistics are a nightmare. The roads are clogged, the weather is freezing, and the enemy is everywhere. Then Eisenhower turns to Patton. And Patton, ever the showman, delivers a line for the history books. He calmly states that his Third Army can attack in just 48 hours. The other generals are stunned. Some are skeptical, even thinking Patton is bluffing. How could an entire army, already engaged in combat, pivot 90 degrees and march over 100 miles in 2 days, through ice and snow, to attack an entrenched enemy? It seemed impossible. Eisenhower, however, knew his man. He looked at Patton and simply asked, "When can you start?" Patton's legendary reply was, "As soon as you're through with me." He wasn't bluffing. In a display of incredible foresight, Patton had already anticipated this exact scenario. He had his staff working on 3 different contingency plans to move his army north even before he arrived at the meeting. This was classic Patton, audacious, prepared, and brimming with confidence. So, what did Eisenhower say when Patton made this incredible promise? He didn't shower him with praise or express shock. According to historical accounts, Eisenhower's reaction was one of calculated calm and professionalism. He listened, assessed the plan's feasibility, and gave his approval. He knew the risks. He also knew that Patton's boldness was exactly what the situation demanded. Eisenhower's leadership style was about empowering his subordinates. He trusted Patton to do the impossible because Patton had a track record of doing just that. With Eisenhower's green light, the Patton pivot began. The Third Army, a massive force of over 250,000 men and thousands of vehicles, started its historic march north. It was one of the most remarkable logistical feats of the entire war. Soldiers were pulled from the front lines, loaded onto trucks, and sent hurtling over frozen, treacherous roads towards Bastogne. They called it the Red Ball Express on ice. The men of the 101st Airborne in Bastogne were holding on by a thread. When the Germans demanded their surrender, their acting commander, Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, gave his now famous one-word reply: nuts. It was a symbol of American defiance, but defiance alone couldn't win the battle. They needed relief, and they needed it fast. Patton's forces slammed into the southern flank of the German salient with ferocious intensity. The fighting was brutal. The Germans were determined to hold the ring around Bastogne, and they threw everything they had at the advancing Third Army. Patton was relentless, personally driving his men forward, often near the front lines himself. He famously prayed for good weather, and for a short period the skies cleared, allowing Allied air power to finally join the fight, dropping much-needed supplies into Bastogne and pounding German positions. On December 26, a week after Patton's bold promise to Eisenhower, the breakthrough happened. The 4th Armored Division, part of Patton's Third Army, punched a narrow corridor through the German lines and linked up with the defenders of Bastogne. The siege was broken. When the news reached Eisenhower's headquarters, it wasn't a moment of wild celebration. It was a moment of profound professional relief. The immediate crisis had been averted. The gamble had paid off. So, what did Eisenhower say when he heard that Patton's troops had reached Bastogne? The specific verbatim quote is not as dramatic as you might think. There wasn't a grand cinematic pronouncement. Eisenhower's communication was often through formal dispatches and reports. But his actions spoke volumes. He conveyed his deep appreciation and professional respect through official channels. More importantly, he continued to place his trust in Patton, giving him the operational freedom to continue his relentless counteroffensive, which would ultimately help crush the German Bulge and accelerate the end of the war in Europe. In a later letter, Eisenhower wrote about that critical moment, acknowledging the sheer audacity of Patton's plan. He recognized that only a commander with Patton's unique blend of arrogance, genius, and iron could have pulled it off. So, the "what did he say" moment isn't about a single, snappy quote. It's about the silent, powerful trust a supreme commander placed in his most dynamic general during the Allies' darkest hour. The relief of Bastogne was a turning point. It demoralized the Germans and energized the Allies. It showcased the incredible synergy between two vastly different leaders. Eisenhower, the master strategist and diplomat who could see the big picture and manage clashing personalities. And Patton, the brilliant and aggressive battlefield commander, the old blood and guts, who could execute the plan with unmatched speed and ferocity. Eisenhower didn't need to shout his praise from the rooftops. His quiet approval at that critical meeting, his unwavering support during the brutal fight, and his continued faith in Patton were the highest compliments he could pay. He knew that when history was on the line, Patton would deliver, and he did. The story of what Eisenhower said is really the story of what he did. He trusted his general, and that trust saved Bastogne and helped win the war. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of history as fascinating as I do, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. See you next time.